So for me, MCS is the quality assurance department for the sector. We're a standard setting organisation, but our principal mission is to give consumers confidence in what we call homegrown energy.
Our vision is to see small-scale renewables in every UK home and community. We want small-scale renewables to be the norm rather than the exception. Standards sit at the heart of our scheme. Surrounding that is then the certification scheme. So third-party certification bodies assess contractors and products in line with the MCS standards. I think data helps generally in kind of businesses and even with in terms of leadership. So using data, which is intelligence, using data to make informed decisions. And when you're a leader and a manager, you can effectively make decisions by using data. In terms of MCS, we gather data through our database, the MID, MCS installations database. So MCS certified contractors register their installations through the MID. We've now accrued over 1.4 million installations throughout the scheme, so MCS is in a really unique position to share these data-driven insights. We are the one point of reference within the sector for information on small-scale renewables, where they're deployed types of technology.
MCS has been around since 2008 and we hold all the installations, as Alex said, on the MID. We always say we have a data gold mine, and that's basically what we're trying to share through this project.
Yeah, I think the data we hold, we're the custodian of the sector's data, aren't we? So it's not MCS's data, it's the industry's data. So for helping policymakers, journalists and even consumers understand what's been deployed in their area.
Yeah, and making this data available, I mean, it's useful to use it to highlight current and past trends, kind of what opportunities there are in the sector, which can help us shape the future as we face net zero targets.
I think the Low Carbon Landscapes campaign is a way to tell a story, not only for MCS but the sector itself. It's sharing that key installation trends and data that we hold and making it widely available to everyone.
When I think of low carbon landscapes, I think about crafting narratives around data insights, and rather than it just being statistics, pulling the actual value out of that statistic and as Hannah says, storytelling with data.
I think it's an opportunity to have a look at which areas have got high uptake and which areas have got low uptake, and then digging underneath that, really understanding what are the drivers for high uptake versus low uptake. And if we can understand those things, we can understand how to incentivise and encourage more small-scale renewables.
Well, we've developed the data dashboard as something to give to the industry, share our data. We share MCS data with a lot of industry stakeholders as it is at the moment. So we're putting the data into their hands so they can have a look, see what they want to find and manipulate the data in their way.
We're the most comprehensive reference in the industry, and we're the only kind of body that can provide this data in near real time. So I think that would be great for research bodies and kind of media journalists who can kind of keep on top of the current trends and kind of feed out of that what the opportunities are in the sector.
Yeah, you're right. It's a real unique resource, isn't it? And there's such a desire for this information. So for me, it's about empowering the decision making and the insights that we know the sector needs to grow.
Well, it's been a long time in the making, so we're finally excited to release it.
At the beginning of the journey, we thought, who is the audience of the data dashboard and what data metrics are they going to find useful? How do we envision that they're going to interact with the data dashboard? So one example would be government. So there's devolved nations in government. The Scottish government will be concerned with Scottish installations. So we needed to allow kind of that ability to filter by installations, by location. At the beginning of the journey, we engaged our data specialist partners, Quinovo, who helped us kind of craft the design and the functionality of the data dashboard. So yeah, after a long time in the making, we can't wait to see people using it.
So the next step, isn't it? It's a natural extension to what the MCS installation database is. It was always seen as a resource for industry, and this makes good on a promise we made nearly 4 years ago now about enabling the data that we hold and the insights that are contained within that data.
Yeah, and it's putting the data once again into the industry's hands, as we don't own the data, as we keep saying, but it's given them the opportunity to filter the data, manipulate it in different ways and getting what they need for their sectors.
Absolutely.
The data dashboard is also going to be a work in progress, so it will evolve. So kind of for the first phase of this project, what do we want to get out of there? But as we capture feedback throughout the industry, we'll see how can we improve that, or what new data can we get our hands on to include in the data dashboard. So it's really exciting to see how it will evolve.
It's a never-ending story.
Yeah. So the data dashboard will be updated every 24 hours, which I think is a key selling point, because everyone in the industry, to stay on top of kind of trends and what the opportunities are, want to view this data in near real time, and yeah, it allows us to kind of look forward.
I mean, it's such an exciting sector to be part of, isn't it? Because things are moving really quite quickly now, and we're seeing hundreds of thousands of installations being queued up for the year ahead. So, things can change literally overnight in terms of 100 more installations, and that's fantastic in terms of our fight against climate change and realising net zero.
So the data dashboard will track all MCS technologies, from solar PV, which is the most dominant technology type under the scheme. We've now got over 1.2 million solar PV installations registered scheme to date. Heat pumps, so air source heat pumps, ground/water source heat pumps, solar thermal, biomass, and one of the technology types that is kind of the newest member to the MCS standards family is battery storage. So the battery storage installation standard launched about 2 years ago, and we're now really starting to see the certification scheme around that standard kicking off. So being able to, see how battery storage installation numbers are on the rise, how those contractor numbers are growing over time, and just plugging in each technology type to cater for different users' needs.
I think as well, one of the main things with the filters is obviously the technology types. You can help to see which will inform policy and which policies have taken off, so you can see the peaks of all them as well.
Anecdotally, we're hearing that 80% of solar PV installations are accompanied by a battery, and so the data that MCS holds and makes available through the new dashboard will start to show those trends more clearly, and that presents an opportunity for the industry to think, well, I, as a contractor, I should be getting into fitting batteries alongside solar PV. I really like the fact that we take MCS data and we augment it with other data, so we can look at, for example, the impact of clean heat technology in off-gas grid and the demographics of who's buying what, where, when. I mean, that kind of intelligence just brings alive our own data and helps make the story that is low carbon landscapes. So we know, don't we, when we publish Renewing Britain and now the Low Carbon Landscapes, that it engenders a sense of pride actually when local councils or local initiatives have been shown to have a real impact on our data, and therefore people are benefiting from small-scale renewables. And conversely, I think it does shine a light on those areas of the UK that are perhaps lagging behind and need extra support to get on the way with their small-scale renewable energy journey.
Yeah, so on the data dashboard, you'll be able to see the uptake in every local authority in the UK, every English region and nation. In the report as well, each year when we launch the Low Carbon Landscapes report, there'll be a league table, so authorities can see cumulatively where they rank out of the UK, and I think it's like the university league table, so it builds momentum. So each year, universities are waiting to see where they rank in that league table, and we envision something similar to this as kind of building that momentum over time.
I think as well, sharing this league table has helped to share best practice. How are people learning from the people who are at the forefront of the top end of this league table? What are they doing that we can help and inform the other sectors about?
In the data, a lot of the areas with quite low uptake are London boroughs, and it's great to see now kind of the Mayor of London promoting Solar Skills London, investing into the training skills for solar PV installers and how they get certified. So it's great to see authorities are now taking action in instances where they are lagging behind.
So the dashboard includes climbers, doesn't it? So you can
Yes.
see who's making the most impact from
Yes.
last year
Yes.
and last month and last week. I
Yeah,
guess.
so you'll be able to see each month kind of which local authorities are ramping up their uptake the most, and kind of how they're moving in the ranks. So be interesting to see over time whether those local authorities kind of at the top are always consistent, are they changing a lot, so you can really kind of pin down who's working hardest to kind of ramp up their
And I think
uptake.
if you see someone move right up, what policies are they implementing? Why have they moved right up? It's questions that we can ask what the information is then.
Absolutely. Solar PV installations have never been cheaper, and I think over the last 10 years our data shows that the price of having a standard 4 kilowatt installation has dropped by 60%.
We actually exceeded last year's solar PV deployment about 7-8 months in, so
Incredible.
I think the energy crisis is definitely having an influence. People want to be more self-sufficient and independent with their energy.
I mean, we shouldn't forget that actually one of the key motivators for consumers is going green.
Yeah.
You know, they want to do their bit for the planet, and this is one way of doing that.
I feel like the technology is becoming more sustainable, so it's kind of standing on its own 2 feet. The feed-in tariff did allow solar PV to reach kind of economies of scale, drive costs down, which only will increase uptake. So I'd say it's actually the beginning of the beginning with heat pumps. If you look at the Low Carbon Landscapes report, in 2019, heat pumps accounted for 20% of the total installation base. Now that we're seeing in 2021, heat pumps have accounted for 30% of the installation base.
I think, as you say, it is the beginning of the beginning. That's a great way to put it. Let's hope so for heat pumps and their adoption in a majority of homes, because we've got to decarbonise our heating and hot water. It's the main contributor to our carbon footprint, isn't it? How we heat and use hot water in our homes.
And I think the dashboard is a great way to look at it, because you can see exactly where policy comes in, and you can see exactly where things are increasing and we are getting back to them levels.
And if you compare heat pumps to solar PV, it's 2 quite different stories. So you've got solar PV standing on its own 2 feet now, no longer relying on policy. The heat pump sector is kind of still in its infancy. It's not a new technology, but it is still deemed quite niche. And I think there's a lot of work to do in terms of increasing public awareness of what heat pumps are. I think as now the boiler upgrade scheme is launched, it can help those who need that upfront capital to get a heat pump installation. It's also great to see that VAT has now been abolished on energy efficiency measures. So again, I think we are on the way to kind of reaching that cost parity with heat pumps, but we do need kind of a long-term policy framework to kind of facilitate the acceleration of heat pumps into UK homes.
I think looking at the dashboard as well, when it lets you drill down into that local authority level, you can see how many heat pumps have been installed in your region, and if you know someone down the road that's got one, you can go and ask them the questions and see exactly what's happening with the technology. It gives you that confidence.
And the Renew Britain study kind of uncovered that there is a correlation between high heat pump uptake in areas that are off the gas grid or more rural areas. It's great to see in the Low Carbon Landscapes report that actually Manchester, a city and an urban area, had the highest ground/water source heat pump uptake in terms of installation volume. So it's really exciting to see now more urban areas where some people may not think that the building infrastructure can handle heat pumps, that heat pumps are going in and they're having a positive impact on the community.
I think Low Carbon Landscapes can really help with upskilling, because we can see the trends, and if we can see the trends, we can help inform the sector exactly what's needed, where and how.
MCS has been leading the way really in terms of defining a new apprenticeship pathway for England and Wales, and that is the low carbon heating technician apprenticeship. And we've done that because contractors say they're struggling to find that workforce to allow them to grow their businesses.
I think it's important in areas with high uptake, contractors who are maybe existing gas fitters and want to diversify the business can kind of recognise that demand is there and kind of upskill to install heat pumps.
Yeah, we talk about the early adopters who as consumers have embraced the technology, but we're now moving into this phase of the early majority, And I talk about this a lot because I actually think about contractors as well. We've had early adopters, contractors who've embraced the technology, and now we want mass appeal. And we know that the early majority are pragmatists. They don't want to know how the technology works. They just want to know that it does work.
Yeah.
And if there are any problems, if there was an issue, that there are safeguards in place. And that's the role MCS plays in terms of giving confidence to consumers to take that step into renewable energy.
With the Low Carbon Landscapes report, we are due to release this annually, so it'll be out every single year going forward. With the dashboard, with new technology types coming to the scheme, that'll be never ending, never always changing.
One of those things might be, exploring big data, artificial intelligence, incorporating different data sets and merging them together to kind of pull out key insights and kind of maybe provide indicators for the future.
We've started to think about that, haven't we, in terms of compliance?
Yeah.
So what are the indicators of poor quality? And that's about giving people confidence, of course, which is the heart of what MCS is about. So can the data tell us where the risks are?
Yeah.
So we want this technology to be installed really well. Contractors, businesses, policymakers and consumers like the three of us, we can learn from this data in terms of understanding what's possible.
Yeah.
And I think this is because this technology tends to be quite unfamiliar.
I think it gives you confidence in homegrown energy at the end of the day. The data dashboard allows you to see where everything's being installed. If you can see something in your local authorities taken off, why wouldn't you want it?
So thank you both for talking us through what the low carbon landscape is and the new data dashboard. It's been great to understand it more. Where can people find out about this? How do they get on board with this?
So to find out more, what you'll do is go onto the MCS website. There'll be a dedicated landing page to both the report and also the dashboard itself. Click on the dashboard, create an account, and you're good to go.